Sorry. Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to the Terrace Take. It's Thursday, but we are pre-recorded there this evening instead of the usual live show. Apologies, but no apologies. It's been an incredibly busy week. It's ridiculous. But I'm joined by Mr. Evan James. How are you, mate?
Good morning, good evening. Depends when you're watching or listening. I'm doing all right, thanks. Obviously, just had to be pre-recorded for my fault, but just working it. And sadly, won't get to see the Bradford game, but no doubt I'll be watching probably the full 90 minutes afterwards. Hopefully, it will be hopefully a continue our unbeaten run and not just picking up a draw would be nice. But not asking for much.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Though, because I think the last few years we've seen in League One Championship, promoted teams do very well. Like the League One teams that have gone up to the Premier League, to the Championship have done very well, and vice versa with the League Two to League One. And I think Bradford have got some really good young players as well. And I don't know whether they'll be able to stick it out till the end of the season, but it's the same with anything, isn't it? It's the same. That's almost the same with Cardiff as well. As you don't know, with young players, you just don't know that we're all expecting this sort of dip, and it hasn't really come yet. I think the Stockport game, I wouldn't necessarily say that was a dip in terms of like the young players. I thought some of the selections were a bit off, maybe, and then equally, ultimately, I just think the international break killed us. And Stockport were a very physical team, and the ref didn't give any help, which is no surprise at this point. But what did you make of the Exeter game?
Tuesday.
What did you think of that? Did you think were you surprised by the side or performance or anything?
No, not really. I mean, I think they said it was 10 changes they made, or it was close to that. I think, yeah. So I wasn't really surprised with many of the team. I'm so happy that Osho finally gets a start, and we'll probably ask the question later on whether he deserves to start for Saturday. But no, I was happy with even though I know it was a 1-0 and it felt like we controlled a lot of the game. It still felt at any point we could have gone and drawn that or lost that at the same time, because for the few chances that Exeter had, if it just had a better finisher or better finishing, should I say, it could have been a different story. But I think it's nice to know that even though we have a young squad in our first team, our second squad's probably just as young, if not older, and we can still put in just as good as performance. The only thing I worry about, I'm always pessimistic about it. I was happy that we got the win by all means. They had a goal disallowed at the end, which I thought was, it could have not been given, but I think it was offside. But I don't know. I just see the amount of things I think I heard even BBM shout on the sidelines, and we had a chance to go forward just to keep the ball, and we're like 1-0 up in like the 83rd minute or something. I'm thinking like, why not just go for a goal? You have a chance to cross the ball in and get a second goal. I feel like sometimes we limit ourselves when we could really just, why don't we just go for it in the cups? You know what I mean? Like, it's not the league. I understand trying to defend a 1-0 lead, but it was towards the end, it got a bit sort of nervy thinking, oh, hang on, I feel like they are going to come back now.
Yeah, I think but there's a couple of reasons for that. I think one is it's this weird virtue trophy group game, isn't it? So I think it's like bizarre. But I also think we didn't really get out of second gear all game. We kind of just cruised through. It was quite a professional performance. Exeter had chances, but didn't take them. And then I think you're always going to get that when you make 10 changes. Like 10, doesn't matter who the 10 players are, it's always going to be a bit disjointed. I thought it was okay. I thought Troy Perrott did really well.
Yeah.
And I thought Osho showed, like, the one thing I think Osho gives, which no one else of the centre backs give, maybe with the exception of Dylan Lawler, is like genuine pace. Like his recovery pace is impressive. And I think ultimately in the long term, in terms of this season, I think it'll end up being him and Lawler. But I just don't think you can drop Will Fish at the moment. Like ultimately, I think it'd be really unfair on him or Lawler to lose their place in what should be your first choice 11 on Saturday, because they've been the best two centre backs. They both make a real difference to how we play, particularly at home. You know, Will Fish with his diagonal passes on the big Cardiff City pitch, and Dylan Lawler's ability to bring it forward and play through the lines. I'm not sure any of the other centre backs give us that. So
it's the pace of the passing as well that he has, Osho as well. He's that you can tell he wants to move the ball faster, even if he's whipping the passes to people. And I think people are sort of still getting used to the fact that he wants to not just dawdle and pass to the back slowly like we did last season.
Yeah, I think like what was really interesting as well, actually, on in the Exeter game was I thought Perry NG was really good on Tuesday at right back, but there's we changed the way we play when he plays because he's not got the pace, he doesn't get forward as much. But I thought what he did do is he pushed into midfield really well, which is also something that Bagan and Capaccio have done really well. So that's fine. And it worked okay with Nyakawa up there because Nyakawa's he's so keen to impress, he's up and down. Whereas I think I felt a bit sorry for Kean Ashford on Saturday because he just got isolated because he didn't have Ronan Capaccio and Joel Colwell either side of him making those runs. So, and then the other side of Perry NG is when he went to centre back when Osho went off. I thought he looked like I don't want to be too harsh, like because I thought he was very good at right back, and it's a different position in the middle of a game. He's kind of filling in, but he looked like a liability. Like he nearly gave the ball away a couple of times. He nearly got tackled on the edge of his box, trying to be too clever. And you're like, it's a worry. Someone made a comment the other day that I had sort of slaughtered him a little bit on Saturday or Sunday. But like, the reason I am quite harsh on him is because I know how good he was for us. But it's been so long since we saw those levels of performances. He seems so sort of desperate to get into like an argument with his opposition, but he quite often is out of position or he loses his man or he's not where he should be. And I just find it frustrating. But surely Capaccio and Bagan come back. Although I thought Louis Giles was good, I think surely Capaccio and Bagan come back in at fullback. You'd think home game. There's no reason to drop either unless they're injured or ill or whatever. But I don't know what would you do like with the defense? Because on one side we haven't conceded from open play in the league at all, and we've conceded one from open play all season, which was a mistake from Callum Chambers against Swindon. But you've got Osho's he was waiting to come in. He hasn't signed a 4-year deal on a lot of money to sit on the bench. But as I said about Fish and Lawler, it feels like it would be a mistake to split them up. Trott's been excellent. Bagan's been excellent. Capaccio's been excellent. So you go into this big game versus Bradford, and there's definitely a decision to be made because I would assume that Callum Chambers is going to at least come back into the squad. Like, what would you do with a defense if it was you?
I think I don't know with Lawler because I know he came off. I don't think it was injury. I think it was more impact sort of thing and a bit of precaution. But then you look at that and think, okay, you could use that as a reason then to say, look, we're going to rest you this game, Laura. Now we're not going to put you in the squad. We're gonna play Osho and Fish, and then have Chambers as the backup. But then that's almost like the thing is that it almost feels like, oh well, Lola, it's your fault for picking up that slight little injury and saying, you know, I've had a bit of a knock. But if I'm being honest, you can't really go to a back three either then, because what happens if you have a back three? Your only backup centre back is Chambers, unless you were to move Bagan from left back to the middle. And then you're relying on someone like Giles or Capaccio to play left back. And it's just it's too many changes then, isn't it? So I think you just got to stick with the same system. I think, you know, given they're both fit, Lawler and Fish, again, as much as I want Osho to play, and I know he signed a long deal to play football, but at the team comes first no matter what. And, you know, when I get frustrated when like the likes of Perry and Chambers get ahead of others, it's because I'm always thinking the team comes first. Like if these players are performing really well and they have done before, then you go evidence-based for me. At some point, someone, you know, a centre-back's going to have a rest. And that's when Osho's got to prove to himself that he's just undeniably better. And, you know, we know he's a good centre-back already, but that is just the nature of the game. I feel like we need to probably, you know, let go of one of the centre-backs. Maybe Chambers, you know, say thank you, but, you know, we're looking to move you on now, because I genuinely thought that he was going this season. But now we're at a situation where we've got essentially 5 centre backs if you include Bagan. But yeah, I wouldn't change it right now. I think it's a dangerous time, especially with how well the partnership's been going. I say only conceding from penalty spot is insane, and I think you'd be silly to change that unless there was some kind of injury or something. But I don't see NG or Chambers in the back four anytime soon. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and the other side of that is I don't think you need. So on Saturday on the bench we had Osho, Lawler, and NG. I don't think you need 3 defenders on the bench, and I think it severely restricts you. I'd rather have 2 of them. So I'd have Chambers or NG because they cover right back as well, and then I'd have Osho or Lawler, whoever plays out with Osho, Lawler, and Fish, because I don't think you need all of them. And I'd rather have more options further up the pitch, where if you've got to change a game. And I thought Mafiko and Naikawa were really unlucky to be the 2 who kind of dropped out of the squad on Saturday to make room for, although Kenneman didn't come in the end. What did you make of his little cameo? So it was pre-planned that he did half an hour. We didn't quite go down the Macclesfield route of just naming a team and then making 4 subs 1 minute into the game. But you've got to play a certain amount of first-team players from the start.
I think, it's way too little to go off of to be critical or too positive. But one thing I say is he can cross better than most of our players. And that's something like when he had that free kick, and he's left-footed, isn't he, I think? Or I'm pretty sure he was.
Footed, to be honest. But
oh, yeah, well, either way, but like, it's very small snippets where I don't want to say too much on, but all I can say is that, yeah, it's his first bit of action since he's had that injury, and we can't expect it to be a thing. I'm praying it's not an El Ghazi situation. I'm pretty sure it won't be like that, because I feel like he's got way more of his career to go yet. I just think that from the past, and at least he's not trying to do anything to stand out yet. I think he's just focusing on getting fit at the moment. I don't mind seeing him for 35 minutes and all that, but if I'm going to be honest, I haven't seen enough of him yet. I don't want to say too much because it might bite me on the back or the other way around. So, but no, it seems encouraging that at least he can cross better than half our players, which, is mad to think that a lot of our team can't take a corner kick properly. But even Issak Davies, I thought, was better on corner kicks really than some of our midfield or defend options.
Yeah, I still don't understand why well, maybe I do, because Tuesday his set piece delivery was quite poor, but I've always been puzzled why David Turnbull doesn't take the set pieces, because he took them for Celtic and did so well. and then he was quite poor with it on Tuesday. But on the other side of it, I don't think the pitch and that was great on Saturday. Sorry, on Tuesday. But yeah, I thought Kellyman, you could see like he's got something about him. He had like a little sort of, he beat his man, didn't he? And he got a shot off, and I think he had another shot blocked. So it's clear that he's not going to be afraid to shoot, which I think is good, because I thought outside of Rubin, we seem to be reluctant to shoot sometimes. So I think that's a good sign in terms of just his sort of wanting to shoot. And you can see he's skillful, but like you say, he's going to be rusty. He hasn't played for a year, so that's a long time. I think I understand why you and others would be concerned, and compare it to El Ghazi. I think the big difference is this is probably it's a big move for him in terms of his career. Like if he plays 20 games and doesn't do much in League One, that's not going to propel him to play for Chelsea or to even get like a loan in the Premier League next year.
Might get him on a permanent then.
Yeah, well, but then you need
the
him.
Shea effect.
For him, he needs to do something, I think, as he gets fit. But he's not fit, and I think once it goes, I think he'll be good. I think once he's fit. But I'd have him on the bench on Saturday because it's just a play, because he's big as well. And Callum Robinson scored Tuesday, and I thought after he scored, he looked, as usual, looks quite sharp. He's getting around. I worry when he's not scoring that he just doesn't offer loads. But I will say he's been pretty good in the last few games. Like I just look at it and I think, God, if Issak Davies was in the middle, would he get in behind more? Would he run the channels more? Would he offer more? Because I think Robinson's at his best when he's playing on the last man. But we seem to want to use him to drop into the hole and link up play. And he can do that, and he can do it quite well, especially when he's confident. But I'd prefer him on the last man, trying to get in behind and stretch and play. But normally when he scores one, he'll go and score 5 in a row now and then go quiet for a bit and so on. But it's good that him and Salech have scored in a week, because I think we needed the strikers to score as well as Rubin and others. So that's good.
I still feel a bit sorry for both Salech and Robinson though, because their primary positions are strikers, whereas someone like Issak Davies, you more often see him end up on the wing. Even if he is playing striker, he might drift wide or whatever. And because of the pace he's got, he's useful. He's useful to bomb down the wings, especially when he's subbed on. But if I'm being honest, we still haven't really provided the proper service, so we haven't figured out yet how to really get our strikers involved in the game. And because of that, I know like Robinson, like over the past few years, he will drop deep like probably even more than a false 9, probably a false 10 if anything. But I think it's got to be frustrating for them both, because yes, they both scored and it's great to get that weight off their shoulders now they finally got their first goal or two. But it must be really really frustrating, when you go the whole game and the main thing you're doing is just pressing to make the keeper kick the ball long. It's like the ball seems always so far away from you. And I still think that, I don't know if it's specifically a coaching instruction or if it's a coaching weakness or flaw we have, but it seems like we never seem to get our strikers involved, at least not until we last had Kiefer Moore and Harry Wilson. They just really complement each other. I really think we still lack that, the final third. We don't work enough on it. Like, again, I'm sure we do work. They do work and training on it plenty, but it's hard to get your strikers involved sometimes when you just play them as off the shoulder last defender, because a lot of teams, again, they play 5 at the back. They double up on you like Salech has been. They get away with fouling a bigger man, especially, whereas Robinson isn't as big. But, he's a lot more agile, a lot more quick. But at the same time, it's like, I still think that they're not getting the service they really need. So I'm just praying that does sort of come about soon.
I agree with you to a certain extent. But we have put in a couple of really good crosses, and Salech hasn't made the run across the front post or into the box.
Yeah.
So I think I do agree with you. We could give him more service, and then he'll score more goals. But there has been a couple of times where he hasn't made the run. The problem is if you don't get the ball regularly, and you think that we're going to go back and keep the ball and then try and work it from an angle, you stop making the runs. And I guess that's the mindset of the striker, isn't it? You've got to keep making the run. And I mean, against Stockport on Saturday, the first goal that Salech scores just after half time should have been allowed. It was onside. It goes to Willock. He plays a first time left footed cross and Salech knocks it in. That's a goal. Like, it was not offside, but unfortunately, you know, the way there's no VAR and stuff, so you got to just go with the referees. But he made a good run and he finished it well, and we crossed it. I think Salech has got a touch of the Kiefer Moores about him in that he got absolutely battered. And like, there was Stockport were naughty on Saturday. There was some real nasty off the ball stuff that the referee and the linesman just didn't see or just ignored or whatever. Digs in the ribs and all sorts. It was like watching something from the 80s. And I felt for Salech then, because then he would like breathe on the centre back. The centre back would fall over, and it was a free kick. And this is how you could see there was a clear thing from Stockport, not just to be physical, but to try to get a reaction from certain players. You know, they were winding up Salech. They were winding up some of the younger players. And I think it's a learning curve, I guess, for all of them. But Salech did well. Like, he kept his head throughout the whole game. He didn't get frustrated, and he got his rewards, because he has looked frustrated at times. And I'm not surprised, because he's got battered. Like, there was a couple of points in the first half. Like, Rubin had like two defenders like hanging off his back, and he kind of falls over or laid the ball off, and the referee didn't give it. And you're just like, they're literally like piggybacking on him. And it's a strange one. The refs as a whole have been really poor. I actually thought the one on Saturday I thought he put the players at risk with some of the way he did it, because that's the sort of game where players get more and more frustrated at not getting fouls given on them. And then eventually one of them goes and tries to get revenge. And then someone gets like a leg breaker or an ankle breaker and whatever, and a red card. And it's tricky. On red cards, what did you make of Kean Ashford's red card? Because, again, he stuck up. There was like a timeline to it. Louis Giles got clattered on the left wing, and the ref gave a free kick, but I don't think he booked the guy. He might have, I can't remember. But Kean got really angry with it, like, because it was a nasty one. It was like quite cynical, and he got really frustrated with it. Wasn't happy. You could see him remonstrating, and then a few minutes later, a long ball goes up, and he gets elbowed in the face, reacts. And I thought, well, good for him for sticking up for his teammate, and good for him for sticking up for himself. I think where he went wrong is he let that frustration then, once it had all been sorted and booked, and he let that simmer. And I think he had said something to the ref, and the ref had ignored it, told him to shut up or whatever. And then he said something again, or he kicked the ball away or whatever, and he got a second yellow. And it's the second part for me where I think he's got no better. But he is still a young footballer, like, but he's also played a season and a half. Like, this is his third season technically at first team level, albeit the first season was only a few games. But I don't know, where do you stand with that?
I mean, I can't remember like the earlier stages. I know obviously that is a bad foul thing on Louis Giles, and you know, every right to have a natural reaction to sort of stick up your teammates and everything, and to get annoyed about it, especially like with some of the referee in this division. Like, I thought the championship was bad, but there's less coverage of referee decisions in League One. You know, it just naturally is. What VAR or no VAR doesn't matter. But I think when like you said, once when it's been dealt with, you have got to kind of just focus on the game then, because you're only going to put yourself in more trouble. And it's so easy for me to say, because I would be that kind of person that would react in a game like that. But the thing that really annoyed me was how petty the second yellow card was. Not from the ref, but actually Keane Ashford just almost like dribbling the ball away and then just kicking it away well after the whistle had gone. And I'm just thinking, what are you doing? I knew it was going to be another yellow card because it's a new enforced rule. It's been at least for like a whole season, I think, where if you kick the ball away after the whistle goes, it's basically guaranteed a yellow card. And especially at that time of the game, if it was just before half time, maybe he's probably giving him a final warning. If you kick the ball away again, blah blah blah, you're going off. But because of the nature of the time of the game as well, it's like, why are you doing that? And then straight after, then they obviously score, but it's offside, and get out of jail card there. Maybe the fact that he was just offside, but I just think the second yellow card, like, as bad as as annoying as it is for both people get yellow cards when there's a bad challenge. The second one is just, there's no excuse for me. You shouldn't have touched that ball. Should have just left it.
It's like it's frustration and petulance, isn't it? Like, just.
But I get the first one is like, oh well, they both have to get yellow cards because someone's sticking up for their teammate and whatever.
But then equally, I think for Keane, there's probably, I don't even necessarily think the frustration was just about that game. I thought he looked really frustrated on Saturday, where he got no decisions from the ref. I thought he looked tired anyway, which was probably, he had a really hard game for Wales under 21s in the week, and I had assumed he wasn't going to play, but they obviously rested some of the others, because he had a really physical game, difficult mentally and physically, traveling and all the rest of it. But he looked like not with it. Whereas on Tuesday, I actually thought he looked quite dangerous. There was a couple of times he sort of beat his man, and he obviously sets up the goal just before Louis Giles gets fouled. He kind of turns two people, gets away from the guy, and the guy brings him down. Like, he did quite well when he came on, but I think there was a bit of frustration because I don't think he's been as good as he started the season in the last two. I thought he did a game before the international break. He had quite a poor game, but what saved him was that he contributed to the goals against Plymouth. So he had a poor game, but he had big moments. Then against Stockport, I thought he was a bit unlucky in many ways. Like, physically, he just got fouled a lot, and he was isolated because of Perry NG. But it felt like there was a bit of a kind of build up of frustration rather than it just being all about that one referee. In terms of the Bradford game, it's suddenly become a big game because Bradford are level on points with us. We got a game in hand, which, when you look at it, if we can beat Bradford and we can win the game in hand, it's almost like happy days, isn't it? It's like you've got a little cushion then to just breathe and build a bit of momentum up. I think that's what they've got to do, is try and build momentum again, because the international break has just disrupted that. Would you make any changes to that sort of 11 that he's been playing? So sort of Willock on the left, Ashford, Salech up front, Joel, Rubin, and Wintle. Would you make any changes to that 11 that he kind of was happy with going into the break? Or because I think Issak Davies deserves a start. I think he's been really good off the bench, and I thought he took his chance on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, I think. Oh, it's tough because I'm looking at a photo mob now. I'm trying to think of like our last match, and I'm looking at the lineup we had. It's all over the place. You've got Salech on the left wing here, Chambers at centre midfield. Like, I don't know. It's hard to sort of get an image of my head, but from what we played before, I think I would probably drop Salech for Issak Davies, not due to like any kind of form, but like this Bradford City side are unknown quantity for me. The only player I know in this squad is that Pennington, which I believe they got from Blackpool, their centre back, unless I'm wrong. But that's literally the only player I recognise in their team. The rest of them, I suppose Wright as well, but they look like a fairly, fairly quick and young side from what I've seen. Like you said, they've been promoted as well So it's like they've got that kind of winning feeling. And I don't know, I just feel like we need to play a very fast-paced team at least to start with, and then you could possibly bring Salech on, in the second half. I don't know. I just really feel like if we're going to get at these, we need to work a lot faster than what we have against Stockport. And I get it, there's the patient build up, but I genuinely feel for this game we need to change that a little bit, just to not be. I don't want to say be not patient, but I think there's certain times where instead of just going back and resetting, we just take a few more risks, because we've got the home crowd as well. They're going to want to see some exciting football, want to get the crowd up. I don't think if that Exeter game was played at home and that was a league game, I don't think people would have been as happy about the win. I think people would have gone away and just like, oh, that was a nice relaxing game, but that was about it. I feel like it was a bit dead in that game. So I just want us to play. The only change to make is probably put Issak Davies on for Salech, just because I feel like we need someone with like blistering pace up front to start the game. And then by all means, you can bring on whoever afterwards. But I think we need an early goal in this game if we're gonna upset them. Because I don't know, they look really good. I didn't rate Bradford at the beginning, but they've proven everyone wrong so far. So especially when we have a game in hand, because what's the Cardiff City way? Oh well, we have a game in hand. Oh, let's lose this game then. That's the Cardiff City way. Now, obviously, I hope that's changing, but history does repeat itself. I mean, it's still in them a bit to sort of ease off the gas a bit, because we got a game in hand. It's all right if we draw it. I want to see us pace them, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Yes, only one change I would make.
Interesting. So the way I look at it is, I don't really include like obviously you've got to include the Stockport and the Exeter game to an extent, but I think he changed the team against Stockport because of the travelling that some of the younger lads had done with Wales, and because of how physical Stockport were. I think if we had just gone into that Stockport game straight off the back of Plymouth, I think Dylan Lawler and Will Fish would have started. I think, it would have been that sort of similar 11 that had been playing up into the international break. And ultimately, I think the performance versus Plymouth was that sort of good that you didn't need to make a load of changes. But obviously, the international break means you've got to take other things into consideration, and you've got to rotate at some point. So for me, there's no way I would drop Salech, because I think, one, he's looked really, really good in the last couple of games he's played, in the way he's linked play up and battled for the ball. He looks like he's got that hunger back, which I felt like just prior to the window closing, he looked a little bit frustrated, like as if he was starting to get a bit annoyed with the lack of the ball and the treatment from the opposition. Whereas now, I think the last couple of games, he looks like he's up for the fight again, and he's winning. His link-up play against Stockport was really good. He made some great layoffs and stuff like that. What I would bring Isaac in. I'd probably bring him in for Kean. I think, and I'd be tempted to move Willock over to the right at the start, because I thought Willock did quite well off the right against Exeter. I'm not sure but he switched. No, it's the Stockport game, because he creates the goal from the right hand side. I'd contemplate David Turnbull for Joel Colwill, but I think when push comes to shove, I'd stick with Joel, because particularly at home, his energy and his battling and his just being everywhere is a good trait to have when you're at home and you want to move the ball quick and you want to have a bit more aggression. I think David Turnbull's more someone I personally would go for away from home, when you want a bit more control and keep the ball and stuff like that. So, but then Callum Robinson did well off the bench on Saturday, changed the game to a certain degree, not just him, but the subs generally, and also scored a goal on Tuesday. So from his point of view, he's got to be thinking, well, I can't do much more to try and get a starting spot. I wouldn't be against playing like Robinson up front with Salech and going more, not like full 4-4-2, because Robinson will drop in anyway. It's just whether Robinson's got the work rate to, out of possession, sort of drop into the number 10 and, not necessarily press like a madman, but, be a body in there so you're not outnumbered. I don't know.
Would you go with the Colwill brothers as 2 boxes and then have Callum Robinson behind Salech then?
I just don't know if that leaves you a little bit open. Although saying that, I thought Rubin and David Turnbull did a really good job together as a 2 Saturday against Stockport. Now, obviously, at that point, Stockport was sitting in a bit more because it was towards the end of the game. But I thought Turnbull did quite a good job as being the sort of slightly deeper one, just picking the ball up and moving it. And then Rubin was the sort of up and down. Joel's played everywhere. So Joel has played as a 6 and he's played as an 8 and a right back and a right wing. Yeah. And so he could do it. And then I kind of circle all the way back, mate, and I'm like, do you know what? Just go with what was working before the international break. Like Salech in the middle, 2 wingers, the Colwill brothers at home, Turnbull away, and just keep doing what we've been doing, because why do you want to change it? But I think, at least in the fans' eyes and, people who watch every minute of every game, it feels like we've lost momentum with these 2 games because the performances have been a bit disjointed. But I think there's reasons for both. The Stockport game, we made changes. We had tired players. They were very physical, and the narrow pitch and the rest of it. And Stockport were very good. And then on Tuesday, we made 10 changes, which now I don't think there's many times where you make that many changes. It goes like you go and win 4-0. It's always like a bit disjointed, So I don't know. I think ultimately, don't change what's not broken. And I think going into the international break, we were flying. So don't change it. And maybe I'm hypocritical in that because I said I'd change Keane Ashford for Isaac, but I think Isaac's done enough with his time. So like you mentioned earlier, pick your best team, and then players get a chance off the bench. They get a chance when players need a rest or they get injured. And when they get those opportunities, it's up to them to make themselves undeniable, and they've got to play. So Issak Davies off the bench, I think, has scored 2 or 3 goals, a couple of assists, gets his start on Tuesday. And I think if it wasn't for the fact that he's trying to manage the minutes and give people, rotate, I don't think Isaac would have come off because he was the most dangerous player in the first half. So he can't really do much more with his time. And also that kind of correlates with Keane maybe having a not so good couple of games.
The thing is, I don't think we need to sort of go drastic and change the entire formation or shape, or how, it's more how we play as opposed to than what we see on the formation. I think instead of giving players specific positions on the pitch, I think there's more benefit in giving players certain roles of what they're meant to do. So, for example, like before, you think back, right, where we had the likes of Aaron Gunnarsson, his job was to be that number 6 that, only really crossed the halfway line if you were going to support a counter attack or whatever. He was the main person cleaning up on aisle 3 of, just cutting passing lanes and aggressive interceptions. That was like his main kind of role. Probably, obviously he did other things as well, but that was kind of someone who was really good and understood his role really well. Someone like Issak Davies, I feel like he's so good at creating chances from out wide. Why not stick him out wide? I feel like, Willock is probably a really good example. Willock wasn't, his role wasn't clear last season in terms of what he's best at. And because he didn't fit, they didn't find his forte, it made him look like a really poor player, for being honest. But this season, even though he still plays as a winger, and he by no means is he a fast winger as fast as Issak Davies, his role is to try and cut inside and either put a curling cross in or a shot in, or just to drift into the midfield. And it's like that way he has so many more. He's so much more useful because he's better when there's players lunging in and trying to tackle him because he has really good balance. And yes, he doesn't have a lot of pace, but he makes up for that with his reactions and his eye for he just has a lot better vision that I feel is wasted on the wing. But it's like, even though players might start in one position, they might end up in other areas of the pitch. I know Barry Banham was one of the best at Sheffield Wednesday. I noticed him. It's yes, they might play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-1-4-1, but his job, Barry Banham, would literally just to go across from the width of the pitch as a defensive midfielder. And sometimes he's at a left back position, sometimes he's at left mid. He's all over the pitch, but he didn't have a specific position exactly. And I think that even if we were to go to a 4-4-2, I think a lot of people sort of scoff at that. I think those days are over. But I think, you have got cover as the back four. Bagan is primarily a defensive centre back, a traditional one. He can be attacking, but there's always ways to change into a back three and let Kapaka go forward. There's so many variations you could do that doesn't require an entire system change for them to practice. The main thing is that we haven't seen almost any crosses being put into the box unless it's from a corner, and it shows because we don't seem to practice them a lot. We might be all we practice, but we overhit so many crosses, we underhit crosses. It's surely that's a big sort of area of focus we should be spending on if we got a striker like Salech. Otherwise, as soon as he gets subbed off, you got Robinson, a completely different striker to him, still can score goals. But if you're going to be crossing the ball, high all the time, you can't expect him to win loads of headers. So I think the main thing is we do just take a few more risks and just put the ball in the box, because it's not to be disrespectful. It's League One. Players are going to make mistakes. Deflections, Christ. I think, what was the game that we had 2 deflected or 3 deflected goals in? Well, there we are. See, and look, people will stick a leg out. People will try to intercept and try to stop it going in. And sometimes that's all you need to put the ball in the danger zone. And I think it was Coventry last year where the centre-back scored 2 for us. He put it top bin so well, but it makes people panic. It makes defenders panic when you put balls in dangerous areas. We don't always have to pass it directly to people. I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to look for the perfect opening, and it's great. I think what we're doing right now, we're unbeaten, and who am I to say what's right and wrong? But I find there's so many calculated risks we could take, but we just don't take them because we're being that overly patient team, and it'll cost us later in the season, no doubt, if we keep going this way. But that's the only thing I'd change. Is just we need to take more risks. We've been very safe at the moment, which is you can't really fault it, but it gets to a point where you lose the excitement of watching the patient build up style.
Interesting, because I disagree. See, I think we've moved the ball really quickly. But then I remember last year vividly and how dull, we just went sideways, backwards. But we never progressed the ball. Whereas now I think there is a purpose, and there is, it's not like we haven't created chances. We just haven't been clinical enough. And I think I'd be interested. My laptop's just crashed, but I was going to say, I'd be interested to know what our sort of XG has been, particularly at home, because I wouldn't be shocked if it's been quite high, because I think we've created chances, we just haven't taken them. But I agree with you. I thought Exeter, we didn't move the ball quick enough, and Stockport, we just went long ball for some reason in the first half, which was puzzling because you just went from one extreme to the other. Which I think either fairly or unfairly, a lot of people blamed on Perry NG and Callum Chambers. I don't know whether it was just that Stockport pressed high and they just panicked because they haven't played a lot of football, or if it was the narrow pitch or what. But we definitely were a lot more direct than we've been all season in that first half.
I think
that's interesting.
I will say so. I think the last 2 games kind of does make up my perception of how we play. It's kind of because we've had those 2 games where One of them was one of the better teams we played away on a smaller pitch as well and whatever. And the second game was the cup game in which, you know, we still won it. But I just think later on the season, I think if our aim is to be playing championship football, I'm just hoping that I'm trusting the process and we will just get more clinical as the season goes on. I just look at it sometimes and think, oh, that'll be a good chance to cross it, and we don't do it. I'm just thinking, I think of the what ifs. What if we did just cross and maybe Salech or someone else gets on the end of it? But I can't complain too much. I'm trying to think of, like, you know, when we eventually get back to championship level. We tried doing it last season. Obviously, it wasn't great, but we didn't have BBM. But I just worry that, you know, teams will figure us out at some point. But again, we're unbeaten, so I'm really happy. And if we continue like this form, even if we pick up an occasional loss, I can't complain too much.
Yeah, I think it's just the loss is going to come, isn't it, at some point, I guess. But it's, until it comes, just trust in it. I think the big difference is that we got these young players that we didn't use last year. They give you that bit of extra aggression and legs and belief. I think there's clearly like more belief in themselves than there was all season last year. But then I get frustrated because all of these players were available to us last year. And you can't tell me that in 3 months of summer or whatever that they've suddenly gone from not being ready to ready. It was just that the managers didn't have the courage to use them. But there we go. So that's our look ahead to the Bradford game. A few little conversation starters, and in amongst that, like, what do you guys think about that selection? Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with Evan? You'd like to see us be a bit more aggressive? Would you put Salech on the bench? Would you put Issak in the side? Would you change the system? It's all interesting. I think Osho showed enough on Tuesday with his pace that you can't be complaining if he's in the team on Saturday. But I would be disappointed personally if it's not Fish and Lawler, because I think they've been so good. But I'm interested in what you guys think, so please do leave a like in the comments, leave a comment in the comments, and like the video, share it, all that good stuff. Remember that we're pre-recorded, not live, and it's pre-recorded content all day tomorrow as well. Check out the video I did on Dylan Lawler, which is going to be out. It's weird. It's out before this, but it's recorded after this, so it's out at lunchtime. Check that out. And Evan, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
And we'll be back live Saturday night after the game. Make sure you join us. If you see us at the game, say hello.
2-1 Cardiff.
2-1 Cardiff, like it. 6-0 Cardiff.
Rascal Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, right with me for your Caesar.
Right, mate.